Happy game day, everybody, and welcome into GameQuest, a Volquest.com Game Day Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see we are festive here on Feast Week. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. If you're listening to this and watching this on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening, or maybe Saturday morning, hope you guys had a great week spending time with your family, your friends, and eating all the turkey that you could possibly handle. Tennessee football. Big weekend coming up, the conclusion of the regular season, welcoming Vanderbilt to town. And Vanderbilt's got college football playoff aspirations, needs to win, needs to look good doing it. Also needs a little help. Tennessee on the other end wants to finish the regular season 9-3 to better position itself for a bowl game in Florida, finish on a high note, senior day, and most notably just beat Vanderbilt because, of course, you know, what more motivation do you need in that regard? This is GameQuest presented by the great people all season long for the third straight season, I believe, and that is Spivey, Cain, and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let him find a solution for you. Grant Ramey is in Vegas, so Spivey, Cain, and Spivey's been on speed dial for him all weekend long, or at least he's recording this in Vegas. He's back home by the time you're watching this. Grant, appreciate you getting up early and recording this with me. I told you not to, but that's typical you. How was the week overall? I know that there's still some things to be done at the time of this recording, but how's your week been out west?
It's been fun. It's been like a little college basketball bubble. Like you don't know what's going on outside of this little area because there's 18 teams here, and you're trying to figure out who's winning and who's losing and who plays who on Wednesday and all this stuff. And everybody's trying to figure out the format that they're going to use to schedule all these games on Wednesday and who's going to play for a championship and who's going to play for third place. And obviously Tennessee played really well Monday against Rutgers and then played really, really well Tuesday against Houston. And picked up a big win there. So it's been a really fun – it's kind of felt like a NCAA tournament weekend where everybody's here and they're in their own little bubble working basketball and enjoying it.
This is a football podcast, and we're going to get to football, I promise. But two things real quick. 18 teams there this week, is that right?
18 teams.
Next year, 32?
Next year's 32.
Why not go to 68?
They actually asked the guy Tuesday night. He had a press conference, the co-founder of this thing, and they were like, are you going to go to 40? Are you going to go to 48? And he basically said, like, 32 feels like the right number. He said something like, the NCAA tournament is so spectacular and awesome and elite and the best thing ever. Why not try to recreate some version of that early in the season? So it's going to be 32 teams next year. It's going to be 4 8-team brackets, and the winner out of each bracket, or the winner out of each group, I should say, based on point differential record, all this stuff that they've used this year, will play for a championship. And Tennessee is here, I should say, for the next 2 years. They signed a 3-year contract with this tournament, so get used to it.
Yeah, a chance to pick up some NIL funds, and
right,
you know, it's unfortunate Tennessee playing in the third place game this week, even though going 2-0 and you know knocking off number 3 Houston. But that's kind of the way the cookie crumbles, and then something like this. Last thing, Bishop Boswell, man. I mean, there's a reason why Barnes has been starting him when healthy. I mean, he plays great defense, and he's efficient offensively, and he was the best player on the court on I guess it was Tuesday.
I could not have been more wrong about Bishop's trajectory, what I thought the role was going to be for him on this team, just because we saw him play 3.5 minutes a game last year. We never saw him really do anything. You never heard very much about him. But he's carved out this Jemai Mashak kind of role where it's just diving on the floor. It's deflections. It's causing those turnovers. It's scoring when you're left open. And he gets left open a lot. Maybe that changes as the year goes on. But Tennessee missed him badly when he was out. He missed 3 games with injury. That's just not something I expected coming into the season. But man, he's proved me so wrong.
Tennessee basketball in Las Vegas, a successful week for Rick Barnes' club. All right, let's get back to the gridiron. Man, I cannot believe it's the final game of the regular season. This thing always just flies by, and you and I were talking before we hit record and watching some highlights from earlier in the season. It feels like a lifetime ago, but you know, Tennessee's had some trials and tribulations, some ebbs and flows, but last week going down to Florida, exercising some demons, 31-0 at the half. I mean, what were your thoughts on the last thing you've seen from Tennessee this year and kind of what that means maybe heading back home to face off against a really, really good Vanderbilt team? And it's kind of weird to say, but it's the truth. It's a very talented Vanderbilt team.
I think we were talking last week, like, is this team ever going to just play 60 minutes of really good football? And I don't think they played a full 60 minutes at Florida, but they played their best version of football in all 3 phases that we've seen this season. I mean, the start could not have been more perfect. The end of the first half, obviously, people want Josh to try to go for another touchdown. He kicks a field goal, all that stuff. The second half is what it is. But to go down there, and I don't care if it's a 3-win Florida team, everybody knows what happens in Gainesville when Tennessee goes down there and the way they've found ways to lose to similar average Florida football teams. To go up 28-0, to go up 31-0. It was crazy to watch, but Tennessee played that well. Offense, defense, it was a little bit of everything.
If Tennessee wins this football game against Vanderbilt, kind of what's your, and this is more of an off-season topic, but what's your outlook on the season? Do you think it's underwhelming, underperformed, about right? All things considered, where you were in May and June, did Tennessee overachieve? What's your take come 24 hours from now, Tennessee's 9-3, beating Vanderbilt and finishing this season?
Well, they underachieved because I was stupid enough to pick them to go 10-2 back in August. I don't know. Everybody picked them to go 9-3. It felt like everybody under the sun, either 9-3 or 8-4. So you go by that, it feels like you kind of met expectations. And there's a lot of good this season, but it's also a lot of frustrations because you're a made field goal away from beating Georgia at home. You let that Oklahoma game go just based on mistakes made. Oklahoma's a good football team, and we saw them win at Alabama a week later, kind of with that same process where they just took advantage of mistakes and were opportunistic and found a way to win. So that's the frustrating part, is the playoff was there to be had. You just didn't make the plays when you had to in a couple of those moments. And maybe if those moments happen, something else happens, and there are other losses along the way. But I think overall, based on what you lost, the quarterback situation that played out in April, I think you met expectations for the season, but you came frustratingly short of another playoff trip.
I would agree. I think you certainly met expectations, all things considered, but knowing how good this offense could be, and knowing, overall, and they played better of late entering this game, the defense, but overall it's been a disappointing defense just based on where everybody envisioned it being. Nobody thought it was going to be the 2024 elite, but they thought it'd be much better than kind of where it is right now. And it's done some good things. We talk about it all the time, opportunistic, creating takeaways, sacking the quarterback. But I think it certainly met expectations. But then again, when you see what Tennessee did against Georgia, you're like, oh, those expectations change. And frustrating is a good way to kind of spin that. But you do finish off the regular season if you can beat Vanderbilt. Somebody asked me earlier this week, do you think Tennessee even – they didn't say even cares about this game, but do you think Tennessee will have trouble getting up for this game because they're not in the college football playoff race? There's really nothing on the line for them, where everything's on the line for Vanderbilt. And my counter was I think Tennessee does a good job handling business against inferior opponents, but this year Vanderbilt's not an inferior opponent. Vanderbilt is a really worthy opponent, and Vanderbilt's a really good opponent. And the fact of the matter is Tennessee's favored by 2.5. Over at BetMGM at home for this game. And the home team typically gets 3 points. It's pretty much a toss-up. So I think Tennessee's going to be super motivated. I think Tennessee's going to be ready to roll. And it's senior day. There's going to be some emotions.
Right.
The last time playing in Neyland Stadium, it's going to be an absolute hornet's nest. And I wonder, this will be the biggest atmosphere and the toughest environment Diego Pavia will have ever played in to his point in his career. And he's played in a lot of games.
Yeah. Vanderbilt's legit because they're rolling in here with 9 wins. They're rolling in here with Diego Pavia coming off of 500 total yards and 6 touchdowns against Kentucky a week ago. Diego Pavia might be going to New York as a Heisman finalist. That's the kind of season he's had. He's talked all that trash on that Netflix documentary over the summer of the offseason, and he backed it up. They've been that tough. And it should mean something to Tennessee because it's a rivalry game. It's been a one-sided rivalry since General Neyland was hired 100 years ago. But that doesn't make it any less of a rivalry. It's in-state. It's a big brother, little brother feel. But if you don't win this rivalry game, it's when people start asking, what's wrong? What's going on? What's the matter with the program if you can't beat Vanderbilt? Because Tennessee has so consistently beat Vanderbilt during its football history. So, if you don't think this rivalry means something, lose the game, and you'll find out how much it means.
It's my first time ever doing a podcast. I don't know if you know that. I have my mic muted. I was going to say, if you don't think this game matters, wait until you lose it. And
right.
Yeah, it's going to matter in a hurry for sure. That's kind of how I view the Florida game. And I think Austin said this last week. It was a lose-lose situation because if you win, it's well, of course you're supposed to win. You beat a crappy team. But if you lose, it's oh my gosh, you can't even beat a crappy team. The swamp woes continue. But Tennessee just went down there and just handled business, and again, it kind of exercised some demons. What are you expecting for Tennessee here today in terms of how they should approach this game against Vanderbilt? We'll give keys to the game later, but kind of what's your expectations for how this game's kind of going to unfold?
I mean, you need to have a carbon copy of what you had in Gainesville a week ago, where you're scoring points early, you're getting off the field on third down. Obviously, Diego Pavia is the king of broken plays and making stuff happen, whether he's breaking the pocket and throwing it or deciding to run. So that's going to be really tough to contain and to get off the field on third down. But I think you're going to have to play very complimentary football to steal the old Butch Jones talking point. Like, this team has – it's felt like all season, except for Gainesville, that when you got one thing figured out, you had to try to fix something else because something else went wrong, whether that was third down defense or whatever, pass defense, run defense, not being able to run the football, explosive plays, whatever. So you better get off to a fast start and keep that crowd in it, because you have a capacity crowd. It's senior day. You're at home. You got to win those kind of football games. But if you get off to a slow start, the air gets out of that building. It's going to be tough.
All right, let's look at the stats for just a little bit. Joey Aguilar already over 3,000 yards passing in the season, which is really good. A chance to, if he has a good 2 games, maybe move closer to that record for single season. Deshaun Bishop is at 886 yards rushing net. Can he get over 1,000 in this football game?
He can, and he should. I don't know. What's Vanderbilt's run defense numbers? I don't know. I don't have those.
So Vanderbilt's run defense is pretty good. They give up on average 105 per game. Okay. That's 5th in the league. But and Brent kind of wrote about this earlier in the week, and I couldn't agree more. A lot of the teams they play don't really have good rush defense or rush offenses. They played Missouri and Auburn. They run the football very well, and Auburn ran for 200 and Missouri ran for 170. But the Alabamas, they don't run the ball consistently. South Carolina. Who else is on there? Texas can't run the football this year. There's a lot of people on that schedule that really just don't make it a priority to run the football or can't do it effectively. So, in Tennessee's certainly not been as consistent as what I think anybody would like to have been this year. But they still rushed for over 2,000 yards, and they rushed the ball really well in Gainesville last week. I think there's an opportunity, and that's kind of one of my keys to the game, for Tennessee to run the football efficiently, because I think that stat is skewed a little bit. So if Tennessee does that, I think Deshaun Bishop has an excellent opportunity to be a 1,000-yard rusher, and he could get that in the bowl game too if he stays healthy. But man, wouldn't that be just a story that Deshaun Bishop's a 1,000-yard rusher?
A year ago, we saw Dylan Sampson really close to the single season program record for rush yards against Vanderbilt in Nashville, and you saw Josh Heupel kind of ride him a little bit in the second half to get that record. So it is something that maybe they'll be mindful of as this game plays out. Like, obviously, you're going to run Bishop a lot because he's your best running back and he deserves the most carries. But at the same time, if he's flirting with 1,000 yards in the regular season, it's fine to get it in the bowl game and all that stuff. But to do it in the 12-game regular season would be a different kind of level, I think.
Yeah, what we know about this staff is they're very mindful of stats, and they're gonna keep the quarterback out there to get 200 yards and blow out games. They're gonna ride Dylan Sampson at the end of the game to find a record, and I think there's something to. You tip your cap to that, and because it's important to the players. Sometimes it's like, what are you doing? Stop being so mindful of this stuff. Who cares? But there's kind of a balance there, and I think it's been completely one-sided in favor of go get those stats. I mean, he did it earlier in the year with Braylon Staley, or the 10 receptions, or get him over 100 yards, or whatever it was. On that note, not necessarily Braylon Staley, but you look at the receivers. First time in program history, Tennessee has 3 receivers at 700 yards or more. The only Power 4 conference team to do that this year. Ole Miss has done it in recent memory. Alabama's done it in recent memory. Heupel did it at Missouri when he was the OC. You got Chris Brazzell. Feels like he was just off to such an incredible start to the season. His production's kind of slowed a little bit, but he's only 74 yards away from 1,000. How quickly does he get that in this game?
Hopefully quickly. What that group has done just as a whole has been pretty incredible, because we talked about all July, August, I guess the entire offseason. Like, you didn't know what you had at receiver. You just knew you were thin. You knew Chris Brazzell was a huge name in the portal a couple of years ago. You knew Mike Matthews was a highly rated recruit and all this stuff. We didn't see anything from Braylon Staley last year. He played in 4 games. So for them to stay healthy, and to produce as consistently as they've produced, I mean, Braylon Staley, I could not be more impressed. Chris Brazzell, the first, 6 weeks he had this season was insane, and he's been good since then. It was just going to be really hard to keep up that pace. But what they've done consistently as a group, and not just the explosive plays, it's doing whatever you have to do to keep drives alive and getting open on the sideline and over the middle of the field and stuff like that, tough catches. I could not be more impressed with those 3 guys, considering the questions we had back in August.
Yeah, 50. And I mean, they only play 3 receivers. So
Right.
but 58 receptions for Braylon Staley, 771 yards, 6 touchdowns. 56 receptions for Brazel, 926 yards, 8 touchdowns. 44 receptions for Matthews, 712 yards, 4 touchdowns. Again, it's almost balanced, like between the three of them. I mean, it's really impressive. And if memory serves me right, Squirrel White, now I know he was the leading receiver in 23. I think he was the leading receiver last year, and he only had like 32 receptions. And
I think and it's also, I mean, you got to think about, you got a new quarterback that just got here in May. I mean, and it looks like this is a group that's played together a lot, and it's just not the case. I mean, they had to kind of speed rush through the offseason to just get caught up and get on the same page, and they've been really good, and Joey's been really consistent about spreading it around, and you kind of never know who he's going to be targeting next.
I talked with Mike Matthews for the Ball Network pregame interview this week, and of course it'll air right before the game. And I mentioned the 3 receivers, over 700 yards. And first words out of his mouth, he's like, "Well, I mean, thanks to Joey, right? I mean, Joey put us in position to go do that. I mean, that 4 has been really, really cool to watch this year. Other stats I've been tracking this year, and this one's kind of unfortunate because they just stormed out of the gate through their first 5 or 6 games or whatever, and that's sacking the quarterback.
Right.
They led the nation with 26 about a month ago. They only have 35, and I say only. That would be the second highest sack total of the Heupel era. They had 41 and 22, but again, they had 26 like a month ago. Like, I was hoping they'd get close to 50 or maybe 45 or so. 35 sacks. They've got 78 TFLs, and in 3 of the 4 years under Josh Heupel and Tim Banks, they tallied over 100 TFLs. At this point, I don't think they're going to get the century mark because they're only at 78 right now. Takeaways, I'm sure this is the biggest, takeaway team that Tim Banks has had in terms of, getting interceptions and fumble recoveries and certainly defensive touchdowns. Any other stats that stood out to you so far this season that you kind of been tracking?
No, the sack numbers, I agree. I think they went to Tuscaloosa with 26 sacks, and that was, a month ago, 5 weeks ago, whatever it was.
Tony Vitello was still the baseball coach.
And you needed sacks in that kind of game, and you needed more sacks in the Oklahoma kind of games and the pressures and all that stuff. So it has been – and it's kind of like almost like Chris Brazel. Like, the sack numbers are so absurd the first 5-6 weeks of the season that – you just kind of expected it to keep going, and that wasn't going to happen because if so, Chris Brazel would have, 2,500 receiving yards and 75 touchdowns, and all of them be it of 60 yards or more and all that stuff. Like, it's just not going to be able to stay at that same pace just because of how quickly they got out of the gate. So, yeah, that defensive front has been a little bit of a disappointment. I think the last couple of weeks they've started to shore some things up in the secondary, it feels like, and play a little bit better there. Getting off the field on third down was a big deal against Florida. Obviously, it's not a very good Florida team, but you got to play who you got to play, and it feels like they've gotten a little bit better there.
Looking at stats, obviously, but the most important thing is getting a win here today against Vanderbilt and deleting any college football playoff hope the Commodores have. Joining us next here on the GameQuest podcast, the VFL quarterback and Volquest contributor this season, Jarrett Guarantano. So we'll ask his thoughts on Diego Pavia, Joey Aguilar, kind of some of his keys to victory, and then we'll come back and wrap things up. Grant Ramey, Eric Cain right here on GameQuest, Volquest.com, Gameday Podcast. GameQuest is presented, as always, by the great people over at Spivey, Cain and Spivey, LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is T and Trial Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, and personal injuries, examples of which could be DUI, assault, divorce, custody, alimony, parental rights, personal injuries such as car wrecks, or just simple accidents. Over 80 years of combined experience, Spivey, Cain and Spivey, LLP. They provide representation throughout state and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience, with this practice being in place for 43 years, with this specific partnership of Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, and Richard A. Spivey. Tennessee fans, great guys. They got together in 2012. They also have partners who were energized for today's modern legal demands. They practice primarily in Northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities and Sullivan counties, as well as Hawkins County, Washington counties, but other surrounding counties here in East Tennessee as well. The firm has multiple awards and attorneys who are rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South with real trial experience. So whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or you've been accused of a crime, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP, they can help you. You never know when you might have that need. They can help you. A free consultation today by picking up the phone number the phone and dialing this number. That is 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185, or check it out online today at Spivey, King and Spivey, LLP.com. Spivey, King and Spivey, if you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Jarrett Guarantano joining us here to preview Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and chance to finish the season 9-3, 5-3 in SEC play. That hadn't honestly happened a whole lot, really since Philip Fulmer's been here, and a chance to bolster your bowl aspirations. Maybe a lot of Tampa talk, and if you lose, maybe Jacksonville, maybe Charlotte. Vanderbilt on the other end, obviously trying to play for a college football playoff spot. Need some help. Need to win this game. Need some help, but there is a lot on the line. Plus senior day, last game at Neyland. I mean, there's rivalry week. I mean, this is a big time matchup. But can't believe it's the final game of the regular season. I really can't. But overall, your thoughts kind of entering the weekend, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and how this game has kind of shifted to where it's always been Tennessee dominating Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt's not good. This year, obviously, Vanderbilt's a really good team.
Isn't it crazy how fast the seasons went? Like it feels like it's still like week 6, right?
I know.
It's crazy. I'd start off by saying this. I think that this is the most anticipated matchup in Vanderbilt versus Tennessee history. When you look at it, you have never seen a Vanderbilt team as successful as this team this year. Obviously, they set records, and their record being as high as since somewhere in the 1930s. That's a really good thing for them. That's a shout out to them. They've put together a really magical season. Looking at the matchup, this is one in which they're very similar teams, right? They're very offense oriented. They're defensively have not been as good as their offense has been. Vanderbilt's defense has stopped the run very well. Tennessee's not so much. Tennessee's defense is coming along later in the season. I feel like Vanderbilt's defense is kind of going downhill a little bit. But this is a really, really cool matchup, really good matchup for the state of Tennessee. And for Vanderbilt's sake, it's like March Madness. It's almost like win or go home, right? So if they win this game, they're most likely going to be in the playoffs because this will be another signature win for them. And if they lose, they'll be looking at bowl games outside of the college football playoffs.
I mean, the sad thing is, and we don't have to dive down into it because this is not a Commodore podcast, but like the sad thing is if they win, unless they get help, they might not go to the playoff, which is a sham because if you're 10-2 with a couple of the wins that they have in this league, like that's ridiculous. But and then like Texas A&M, which is a very good football team. I'm not saying it's not, like their wins are not that impressive. I don't know. It's just and they almost committee. It's wild. It's wild the way they rationalize some things.
Right, it's astonishing, right? They have to win the game obviously on Saturday, but they're also hoping for a big Texas A&M win versus Texas. And who knows, right? Texas A&M almost lost that game a couple of weeks ago against who was it, Kentucky or South Carolina? So anything can happen, especially on rivalry week, right? Even Alabama-Auburn's not a given. Alabama hasn't been playing as good a football realistically since our football game. So we don't know. Auburn looked pretty good last week with their freshman quarterback. Not a crazy opponent versus Mercer, but this is an opportunity for a lot of teams to be on upset alert just because of rivalry week. And we know a lot of things can happen on college football, and there's a lot of implications going into it.
The story of this game, in my opinion, is two really good quarterbacks, two underdog quarterbacks, two quarterbacks that nobody would thought would ever mouth anything, two quarterbacks that were not highly ranked, two quarterbacks that went to junior college. I mean, Pavia has been in the spotlight for a couple of years now, but Joey Aguilar coming to Tennessee. Let's talk Pavia real quick. And something I'm really interested to kind of pick your brain with. Like, he's always been an athlete. He's always been a winner. He's always ran the football. He's tough as nails and all that. I never thought his mechanics were like Peyton Manning-esque. And I mean, no one is. But, like, I never thought his mechanics were like elite. And granted, I'm not a quarterback, so I'm speaking out of turn. But just observations and all that. I never thought his mechanics were that great, but he has developed into a really good passer, one of the best deep ball throwers in the country, along with Joey Aguilar. He's leading the SEC in passing touchdowns. His run of the last 3 games has been really, really impressive. The way he's developed into a passer has been really impressive. What's your take on Diego Pavia in that aspect of his game?
Yeah, when you watch Diego, you see a passer, long delivery, long strider, funky motion. And we just talked about it. I think he's the definition of there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, because the way that he's been playing football this year is amazing, right? He's been throwing for over 70% at 72%. He's 75 to 80 yards away from 3,000, 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. And you add that all together with also being the leading rusher on his team for 8 touchdowns. So he's been playing amazing football. I think he should be in the Heisman race. I think he should be a top 3 or 4 guy just because of what he's meant to that program. But him throwing the football, I mean, I was not expecting to be as impressed with how he pushes the ball down the field, his quick game, RPO accuracy, his decision making. And we all know that how amazing of an athlete he is. So whenever he gets out on the run, he's a threat with his feet. He's a threat with his arm. I mean, he throws probably one of the better footballs on the run than anybody in college football. So that's a big shout out to him. Of course, I don't need to go out and give him shout outs because he's going to be on social media or whatever he's on, podcasts, TV shows, talking about himself a little bit and talking about Vanderbilt. But he's an awesome player, and it's crazy to see the production that he's had with mechanics that aren't as sound as other quarterbacks in college football.
How do you chip away and get better? Again, this is a silly question because you just rep it and rep it and rep it. But how do you improve your accuracy so much from one year to the next? How do you improve your deep ball throwing ability from one year to the next? Because again, this is big time improvements.
Right. You could say that. I mean, hard work is everything, right? Being able to take 1,000 reps or 100 reps of really good ones. I mean, it's just a difference on what he was working on throughout this offseason. It could also be in the fact that he's so much more comfortable in the offense that his feet are married to his eyes, and obviously that will allow his accuracy to go up. But when you look at him, I mean, he's making great throws every single game. He's pushing the ball down the field. He's throwing in cuts. He's throwing digs. He's throwing every single type of throw that you need to play big boy college football, and he has grown tremendously. Of course, you're going to look at other quarterbacks around, and you will see quarterbacks with great mechanics. You also see quarterbacks with not so great. And the way mechanics have worked over the years, I mean, from 20 years ago to now, right? Mechanically speaking, the quarterback position has changed a lot, right? You don't see quarterbacks really holding the ball by their neck or really trying to throw the ball over people, super over the top. It's changed a bunch. And with this style of play in football now, with throwing RPOs, throwing bubbles, slants, all these different things off run game, you're able to throw with different throwing motions because you get the ball out so quick. And he's been a master at that this year.
I want to put you on the spot, man, but I mean, you look at the SEC and coming into the year, it's like, I wouldn't say quarterback was a strength last summer coming into this SEC season, but man, it's been really good. Joey Aguilar has been an amazing story. We just talked about Diego Pavia, Ty Simpson waiting his turn. It's showing everybody what he's about. Arch has gotten better as the year's gone along. Marcel Reed has proven everybody wrong. Trinidad Chambliss has been a great story. I haven't even got to Gunnar Stockton yet. From a pure athlete standpoint, really throwing the football, Taylor Green deserves to be in this conversation. John Mateer was being talked about as a Heisman guy before his injury. I just kind of surprised myself rattling off all these names of guys that have. I mean, it feels like this conference has become really good in terms of depth as the years went along at the quarterback position. Given this matchup this weekend, given all those names I just mentioned, if you had a big board of maybe top 5 or top 3 of Jarrett Guarantano's top 3 or top 5 quarterbacks in the league, kind of, I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but kind of how would you arrange those names?
It's so funny because you missed 2 of probably the top 3 guys that everybody was talking about with Lenora Sellers
and Nussmeier.
And Nussmeier, and the third one, DJ Lagway, right? So all 3 of them were top 5 guys coming into the season. Everybody's anticipating them to have a big year. It's crazy how things shake, and obviously quarterback position is so dependent on talent around them, scheme, offensive line play, wide receivers, running back. Like, it's so dependent on a lot of factors. I mean, I know it, but it's so dependent on a lot of factors outside of the quarterback's control that things like this could happen, right? There could be top tier guys that are felt before the season or had a really good year last year that things change, right? Staff changes, talent around them changes. A lot of factors with that. But if I had to pick top 5 right now, no order, I would go Joey would be in it. Ty Simpson would be in it. Marcel would be in it. Diego would be in it. My last one, this is where it gets tricky.
Yeah, you haven't mentioned Arch, Taylor Green, Gunnar Stockton, John Mateer.
I feel like that's like that right there. There's a 4 is like tier A, and then tier B. Gunnar has played really good football in big games, right? He's been playing a lot better than people expected. Arch kind of started off the year slower. He's allowing his talent and his abilities to kind of take off towards the end of the year. I love Taylor Green. I think if Taylor Green had a lot of weapons around him and he had a better situation, he would be top 3 or 4, to be honest. I mean, he's talent level. He's far beyond a lot of these guys. I would probably put – it's tough. That's tough. I'd put gunner in there right now. Talent-wise, I'm putting Neyland in there instantly. Trinidad's been playing awesome football, but I think he also has a great staff around him, and he has really good players around him. So if I had to come down to it, I just think that when Georgia's needed him, he stepped up in a lot of ways, and he stepped up big time against us. He stepped up big time against Ole Miss. And these games that are they're needed or he's needed big time, he's pulled through. So he'd probably be number 5 for me.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. We're talking quarterbacks, and again, like you're exactly right. Like all the hype was on Sellers and Nussmeier and Lagway, and like unfortunately those guys just haven't produced this year, and so they weren't even mentioned in the conversation. And even John Mateer, who everybody couldn't keep his name out of their mouth the first month of the season, I mean, he wasn't even mentioned in that conversation we just had. Looking at Diego Pavia, this will be the most hostile, loudest, craziest environment that he's ever played in. Okay, he's played at Texas, he's played at Bryant-Denny, he's been on the road at he's been on the plains, he's won on the plains several times, but he's about to play in Neland, and I think it's going to be the most hostile and crazy environment that he's seen. Just number one, it's a rivalry game. Number two, he's had many comments about Tennessee over the last year, and Tennessee fans are not going to forget that. I thought it was really, really cool during the Oklahoma-Alabama game. They did the sideline report about John Mateer talking about the crazy environment that he came from at Neland the week before and how this is not even comparable. What's been the biggest or the loudest or the best environment that you remember playing inside Neland for an opposing team or for an opposing quarterback that made it difficult for them?
There were so many, and I respect John for saying that because, I mean, it's just the truth, right? I've been to a lot of different places. I've been to Kyle Field. I've been to, obviously, Bryant-Denny. I've been to Auburn, Jordan Hare. I've been to South Carolina, Georgia, Athens. I've been to all these different places. Obviously, the Swamp. I don't think anywhere compares to Neland. And in the sense of how loud the fans get, just how beautiful the stadium is. I mean, everybody's all out orange. And the passion that's within that stadium, like you could feel it, right? You could feel the legends that played through it. You can feel the the atmosphere. You could feel the fans really wanting that win. The loudest I've ever heard it was my redshirt year, and I don't know if you'll remember this. We were playing Florida at home. Florida was a really good football team. We wound up winning. Josh Dobbs had scored. He threw a touchdown pass to Josh Malone, and at that point, I thought the floor was shaking, and it was absolutely remarkable. I remember that, and I just looked around and I said, this is why I came to the University of Tennessee, for moments like that, right? And we've talked about it from a recruiting standpoint now. Any recruit that loves offensive play or any recruit that feels like they can make a defensive impact, you go to those football games and you see those fans, you see what the university is doing around the sport of football, even other sports, right? I mean, it's just a great place to be right now. And for an opposing team, for Diego's sake, I think it's going to be a rough go-around just because of a lot of the comments that he made. So this is kind of towards him. And to go along with that, this is a game that Vanderbilt needs to win. And Tennessee's last home game of the year, there's going to be a packed-out house. It's sold out once again. I think it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. And for Diego's sake, he's probably going to have the earmuffs on because there's going to be a lot of things said to him from the Tennessee fan base for sure. You know they don't forget.
Oh, definitely they don't forget. And I mean, it's the perfect storm because again, it's Pavia. Number one is Vanderbilt. Okay, it's a rivalry game. Number two, Vanderbilt's playing for a spot in the CFP. Number three, it's Pavia's comments that he's made. And I think a lot of people were like Pavia fans last year. Like, first and foremost, I'll say this: like, college football needs him. College football loves that they have a villain. The fact that he's at a place like Vanderbilt, it just makes it even better, and that he's won. Like, this is a great college football story. I do think a lot of people around the country, not just Tennessee fans, saw that Netflix doc and were like, you know what, I like that guy. I don't really like him much anymore. He's kind of a
mixed reviews, right?
Yeah. So, you know, I think it's just like the perfect storm of a hornet's nest coming in on Saturday. And so I'm excited to see what that environment's going to be like. And I mean, you play in the NFL, going back to just the pageantry and what college football is. I mean, the NFL is great, and some of those stadiums are loud. Arrowhead Stadium is magnificent in the playoffs. But I mean, it's nothing like it on any given Saturday in college. It's just different at the college realm.
And I don't know if it's the amount of people, I don't know what it is, but I just feel like the love is just so much different for college football than it is for NFL football. And like you said, Arrowhead, I played there twice my rookie year. I was on the sidelines there, and it was amazing. It was loud. Of course, it wasn't for the implications of the playoffs when I was with Denver or when I was with Arizona. But when you're walking through Neland or when you're walking through Kyle Field, Bryant-Denny, the Swamp, all these different schools, Sanford, you're sitting there, you're in a place that has had so much history and has so many things and so many great players that have walked through those doors that you almost get a sense of like that amazement, right? You get a sense of this is really special. Like playing the SEC is so special. And that's not to sit there and say Big Ten or ACC don't have magical places to play in. But every single week when you're going on the road in the SEC, those stadiums are some of the best stadiums in all of college football.
I am not setting you up to diss Washington State. Yeah, it was Washington State. I always get Washington State mixed up. I'm not setting you up to diss that or the Pac-12 or anything, but just how different was going from the Southeastern Conference to the Pac-12?
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, I loved my time at Washington State. Unfortunately, I had gotten injured. Going whenever I was towards the later of the season, when we went on the away games, I was so used to playing in the SEC, right? I was so used to playing at these magnificent stadiums. And then when we were going to some of these other stadiums that we went to, like Utah's a great stadium, but everybody was talking about it's going to get super loud. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. And Utah was beautiful. It wasn't even a fraction of what Neyland is. And that's not shade to them. That's just how much people care about SEC football and how much people care about the South. Utah was absolutely beautiful. But when you look at it, when you look at the Coliseum, when you go to these Pac-12 games in the past, there wasn't as much or as loud of a fan base as you would see in these SEC spots that I was previously in. So I was a little bit culture shocked in that way because I was like, you know what? It almost feels like half of the stadium was empty just because of I was so used to seats being filled all the way to the top in this cathedral of Neland Stadium. But that's not to sit there and say not a lot of people have come out of the Pac-12 because they've had a lot of really special players and special teams come out of there. But stadium-wise, I don't think there's a comparison.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll never forget. You kept talking about how beautiful Utah was, and when Tennessee and BYU canceled their 23 matchup, I was so pissed off because like that's what it's all about, man. I wanted to go cover that game at BYU and see that backdrop and everything. But
it's so beautiful.
Yeah, nonetheless, I mean, there's been so many good teams and players. I mean, obviously across college football. So all this to say, Neland's gonna be wild on Saturday, and it's gonna be as tough as humanly possible to communicate offensively if you're Vanderbilt in an environment like this, and Tennessee fans will certainly bring in that regard. Offensively, Vanderbilt's one of the best offenses in the SEC. Defensively, you brought it up, pretty good against the run. I think that stat skewed a little bit based on they haven't played a lot of good running teams, and when they did, they kind of ran it on them. Right. So we'll see if Deshaun Bishop and Tennessee's run game can find some consistencies. What are some of your keys in this football game for Tennessee to win over Vanderbilt?
It's going to be a really tough match. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. My first one is just play all 60 minutes, right? When you look at it, I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs throughout that game, especially with us defensively. I just think that their offense is high-powered. They're going to be able to make a lot of plays. Number one would be play all 60 minutes. Number two would be contain Diego Pavia, stop his rushing ability, being able to keep him inside the pocket. It is remarkable how well he's played inside the pocket. I did not expect that from a smaller quarterback, and for his play style, for him to be able to do the certain things. And the third thing would just be I would put Joey and the boys, because I think when you look at them defensively, they have a really tough time against the pass. And when you look at them, Texas, Auburn, Alabama, all of these offenses have already thrown for 300 plus, and these offenses are not as good throwing the football as we are. So I think it's going to be a career day for Joey and the wideouts. I mean, I'd love to see them all get to 800 yards apiece. They posted something about like 700 yards apiece. I'd love to see them all get to 800 yards apiece with Matthews and Staley getting to 800. I think it's going to be obtainable. I think it's going to happen. It's just going to be a battle of the defenses, right? Which defense is going to play better in crunch time than the other?
Well, it's kind of funny. And on that note, Vanderbilt's defense, red zone defense, has been really good. Like in terms of keeping opposing offenses out of the end zone. I think Tennessee's red zone defense is like they've given up touchdowns 77% of the time on red zone trips, where Vanderbilt's given up like 56% of the time touchdowns in the red zone. So
that's great.
That's something Tennessee would have to overcome. Where do you? I'm putting you on the spot a lot in this one. Where would you rank? Not to say like where would you rank Vanderbilt as Tennessee's like rivalry? Like how, as a player, how did you approach Tennessee versus Vanderbilt? Because again, historically, Tennessee owns a series. Obviously, you beat Vanderbilt a ton of times, but like I'll be lying here if I said it's just as big deal as Florida, Alabama, or Georgia, because it's not. But it's still one of the expectations. You go to Tennessee, you beat Vanderbilt. Like,
Right.
you don't lose to Vanderbilt in state, and like it just magnifies this year because they're so good.
I'd say this: Vanderbilt, over the course of my tenure and even a little bit before, they had some really good football players and some really good teams, especially with the James Franklin era.
Oh yeah,
Even Derek Mason had some really good teams. So in terms of rivalry, we didn't view it as strongly as we did Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and that was just because these teams and their legacies of which they had, right? We were always trying to be better than them, and that's kind of how we grew that rivalry. For Vanderbilt's sake, I mean, I went 2-2 against them. They played good football versus us. In recent years, obviously Tennessee has kind of dominated. They've been playing really good against them. But in terms of just pure rival, I think those three teams, the Georgia, Florida, Alabama, when you look at it, I just feel like there's so much history with them that it kind of overshadows the Vanderbilt versus Tennessee rivalry. And that's not to sit there and say that's not Vanderbilt's biggest rival, right? They look to come into Neyland on Saturday, or whenever they play every 2 years at Neyland, they look to come in and win that game because it's the most important game in the schedule. So it's a great opportunity for them. We know that their leaders on their team with Diego and the boys are going to have the guys riled up. And like we said before, it's a win or go home, and they have a lot at stake, which should allow Tennessee to play a little bit more free, right? But at the same point, Tennessee fans are expecting a win. They're not hoping for a win. They're expecting a win against Vanderbilt.
yeah. Many who cover Vanderbilt have written stories and columns talking about how this is the biggest game in program history. So it's kind of funny, like maybe the first time ever in this series, or maybe just one of the few times, the pressure is on Vanderbilt and it's not Tennessee.
For sure. And this is humongous, right? Like, this is an opportunity for them to be in the state of Tennessee and to be in the college football playoffs, right? This is just, and especially if they keep their head coach instead of him going to another college, will be a huge thing for recruiting. And this could really blossom Vanderbilt, right? We've seen Vanderbilt teams be pretty good in the past, kind of one and done. This is a point, and if they reach the college football playoffs and they really win this game, I think that it will help out their recruiting tools and be able to get a lot more players than they have in years past. So this is a big game for other opportunities for them as well than just going to the college football playoffs.
Yeah, and if they secure, the flip of Jarrett Curtis, I mean, what's that? We had Joey Dwyer on our show on Sunday night who covers Vanderbilt, and he's like, yeah, I mean, it feels like Vanderbilt's going to be able to make that flip happen, but also, what's that say about Vanderbilt going to the portal and finding the next Pavia or finding another quarterback? Like, if you flip Jarrett Curtis, maybe that like just shows everybody like, oh man, Vanderbilt's legit. Like, they got the resources and they can go out and get another big time elite quarterback. So it'll be interesting. It's different times for sure. Out the door, man. What was the best part about Thanksgiving? What was the number one thing on that Thanksgiving plate this week?
We're going with stuffing, mac and cheese. Those are my favorite. I do miss being in good old Knoxville for Thanksgiving, right? Being able to celebrate with the boys and the teammates. That was some fun. But back in Jersey, we're going with some nice stuffing, mac and cheese. Got to get some turkey for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to get some sweet potato pie after. We got to go with the sweet potato pie.
I love it, man. Awesome time this season with you. We'll do another GameQuest before the bowl game for sure, and look forward to continuing to do some projects with you in the offseason, hopefully. And I'm pumped to see kind of what your role is, what you're doing next football season. But you've been really, really good addition this season with us here on this show. So can't thank you enough for that, man.
Thank you so much for having me, brother. I have had a massive amount of fun with you.
Yeah. We'll keep it up. We'll do some things this offseason, and we'll see if Tennessee can knock off Vanderbilt and finish the season off on a high note. Jarrett, as always, man, tell us one more time, tell the listeners where they can follow more of your work on your YouTube channel.
J. Garantano. If you don't know how to spell the last name, that's a little bit difficult. Guarantano. And I appreciate all the love that I've gotten, all the comments, and subscribes that I've gotten this season. It's been absolutely awesome. And once again, I'm grateful for all of it.
All right, good stuff there from VFL quarterback Jarrett Guarantano, Volquest.com contributor of the season. He's done a fantastic job and given his thoughts on the Vanderbilt matchup and the quarterback matchup between Joey Aguilar and Diego Pavia. All right, Grant Ramey, for Tennessee to be victorious, what are your keys to this football game?
Third down, and third down. Diego, as much as he runs, as much as he break contain, as much as he can go off schedule, off script, off platform, whatever term, phrase you wanted to use. That can hurt you if you allow it to hurt you, if you can't make plays, if you can't keep some kind of semblance of contain. So get off the field on third down. That's what I felt like fueled everything in Gainesville, because obviously he went down and got a touchdown to start the game. but to get off the field immediately and to go back down and score again, that set the tone to start that one. I think that has to happen again. Obviously, the offense is going to have to do its part, but the defense has got to get off the field on third down somewhat consistently. It's not going to happen every single time, obviously, but somewhat consistently.
I think Hub's red zone stat's really interesting. He wrote about it earlier this week, and red zone defense, essentially. You look at Vanderbilt, and when teams get in the red zone against the Commodores, they are scoring touchdowns at 56%, 20 touchdowns on 36 red zone opportunities. You look at Tennessee, when teams are getting in the red zone, they're scoring 27 touchdowns on 35 opportunities at 77%. So Vanderbilt's trading a lot more sixes for threes compared to that regard for Tennessee. So I think red zone defense is critical. Who gets more stops whenever opposing offenses get inside the 20? I think the run game, again, I mentioned that earlier. I think the fifth best rush defense in the league is a bit skewed for Vanderbilt. Not to say that they're bad, but I think that they've kind of feasted on a lot of teams that don't really run the football. And when they played some, run-first offenses, they've struggled at points in time. So I think Tennessee's ability to consistently run the football like it did, against Florida. I'm not expecting 177 yards in the first half or 19 Bishop Boswell, Deshaun Bishop carries, but still run the football and be effective in that regard. I just think it comes down to Tennessee's offense. I think Tennessee's defense played better. I think Tennessee's defense is improved. I don't think Tennessee's defense is all of a sudden has a new identity or turned their corner or anything. Let's face it, Oklahoma's offense is not good. New Mexico State is not in this area code, literally. And Florida is just abysmal. But I do think your defense has been playing better of late. Is that going to matter at all? You have Diego Pavia and Joey Aguilar, who are two of the top deep ball throwers in the league. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he's evolved Pavia into a really good throwing quarterback has been really surprising. Because, again, I'm not a quarterback guru or anything. I just watch his tape, and I'm like, God, his mechanics are so bad. So bad. But he's an athlete, and he runs the football. We know that. But he's really developed into a nice passer. So I'm fully expecting Vanderbilt to score points. Can Tennessee's offense keep up? I think it's going to be a shootout. If Tennessee has a lull, I think Tennessee's in trouble. If Tennessee has a quarter or a couple of series where they just don't move the football or turn the football over, I think Tennessee's in trouble. I do think Tennessee can pull away in the second half. I do, as crazy as that sounds, because, we make these predictions every single week, and I always shortchange myself because Tennessee always scores more. This week, I'm not going to do that. What's your score prediction? At the time of this recording, it is Tennessee is a 3-point favorite at home, and the total is at 65.5, according to our friends over at BetMGM.
I've spent exactly about 10 seconds thinking about this, about the time you said score predictions. Tennessee 38, Vanderbilt 27. It's in Knoxville. It's at home. Got to take care of business. Vanderbilt's good. Vanderbilt's tough. Not taking anything away from Vandy in the season they've had, but you got a chance to knock your rival out of the playoff. You got a chance to build on some momentum you created a week earlier against a rival. All that stuff. Find a way to do it at home.
Yeah, we've never done predictions at the end of the show all year long. So
I know. It's a first. Welcome.
Just kind of threw that out at you. I like the shootout. And again, this score, I'm getting wacky here. And I could be so wrong. Do I think Tennessee can lose this game? Heck yeah, I think Tennessee can lose this game. I'm going to pick Tennessee to win it. But this is a really good offense. One of the best offenses Tennessee's going to face all year long. I think it's going to be a hornet's nest. I think Tennessee's going to dial it up and mix things up defensively. They really got after Pavia last year. He was banged up, but he was a complete non-factor in that football game because Tennessee mixed it up and just hit him in the mouth. I think Tennessee's got to do that. I think playing at home, you don't lose at home unless it's Georgia. Tennessee's already lost another home game this year to Oklahoma. I just have a hard time believing Tennessee's going to lose 3 home games. I just don't see that.
That's a good point.
Some seniors that have played here and been through just so much. There's a couple of those 6-year seniors, guys. Remember, there's a couple of Pruitt holdovers still here. Don Bailey, William Wright, Bryson Eason. It's going to be an emotional day for them. Some 4-year seniors like Tyree West, who've been super successful, and Joshua Josephs and so on. It's going to be a big day for them. I just don't see Tennessee losing. I think I can see Tennessee pulling away in the second half, and my score that I'm kind of playing around with right now, I don't know necessarily if I'm going to log it in the official predictions. I wrote it down somewhere. Oh, give me 45 Tennessee.
Okay.
31 Vanderbilt. I mean, that's a 2-touchdown win.
It's
45. I think it's going to get wacky, man. So I love that over at 65.5.
That's a lot of going up and down the field.
It
Also,
is.
we do score predictions at the end of the show. Welcome to GameQuest.
Yeah, welcome to GameQuest. First time ever. Oh, man. Predictions on a Tennessee wins this game where Tennessee's going to go bowling.
ReliQuest Bowl seems to be the most consistently popular projection for Tennessee. I don't know what all goes into that, but it feels like that's the one that's been showing up the most since they lost to Oklahoma. So since they were removed from the college football playoff conversation. I'll go with ReliQuest until something else happens. I think Citrus is still on the line. I think you could fall to Music City or to the Mayo Bowl in Charlotte if things don't go well Saturday against Vanderbilt. So I think those are kind of the ones that keep getting mentioned the most.
I think Citrus, and again, I could be so wrong, and I don't make these decisions. I think Citrus might be off the table simply because, say Tennessee loses this game and Vanderbilt still doesn't make the playoff. I mean, Vanderbilt's going to be one of the premier choices for Citrus, as would Texas, I think, if Texas wins against A&M.
What's crazy, I haven't looked at it this week, but you can do the ESPN's playoff predictor, and I looked, I guess, last week, and I went through Vanderbilt stuff. They could go 10-2, and they still had like a 33% chance, just a 33% chance to make the playoffs. So could you imagine if you're Vandy going 10-2 and missing the playoff? If I'm Clark Lee, who loves Vandy and is an alum and all that stuff, that would make me go chase one of these jobs because you go 10-2 in the SEC and you don't get in the college football playoffs. It just seems crazy.
And I don't want to take anything away from this team I'm about to mention because I think myself included has doubted this team all year long. But what this team has done is just win games and not lose.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Look at who they've beaten. For an SEC team that, again, is, I don't care, it's so much, the schedule is going to be tougher than anything the Big Ten ever has to offer. Okay, that's a side conversation. But just look at all the wins on their schedule. It's not been a gauntlet or a murderer's row. And then you have Vanderbilt that had better wins overall than A&M and could still potentially miss out on the playoff. It's wild. I would have never thought a 10-2 team from the SEC is going to miss out on the playoff, but potentially that could be the case for this Vanderbilt team, which is just wild. And I feel like, again, before the Netflix documentary, I feel like everybody in America would be rooting for Vanderbilt, but since the Netflix documentary, I think a lot of people don't like Diego Pavia, so they're probably indifferent.
It made you either dig in and love him even more, or you already probably were a big fan of him, and it made you just despise him that much more. There's no real in between. It went to extremes.
If Tennessee loses this game, and speaking with some people this week, and again, who knows what's going to happen. I don't know if Music City is on the table. I think it could be Jacksonville or Charlotte if Tennessee were to lose this game. And I haven't looked at the dates and all that, but I know one of those is the 27th. I think that's...
No thanks. Let's avoid that one, whatever that one is.
Yeah, let's not do that one. That one will be a straight road game. We'll drive over to Charlotte or whatever on the morning of the 27th, and we'll cover it and come back because we're not. You'll
miss all the mayonnaise themed parties the week of the game or whatever they do. Events.
Oh, darn. Somewhere back there, I think there's a mayonnaise jar from that kickoff classic or whatever from a couple years ago.
Yep. And you'll be back in whatever year, 28 against West Virginia in September 28, I think.
Yeah, because playing in Charlotte against West Virginia is kind of a tradition for Tennessee football.
You're going to celebrate 10 years later doing the same exact game you played 10 years ago.
GameQuest, it's been fun all season long. And Tennessee wraps up the regular season here today against Vanderbilt. Tennessee is a 3-point favorite that totals at 65.5 over BetMGM. Should be a great environment. Should be a hornet's nest. Should be a lot of angry Tennessee fans at Diego Pavia. Will he falter? Will he thrive? What's the rest of that team look like? And how does Tennessee respond? 60 minutes will tell the tale, and we'll have it all right here at Volquest.com. We'll come back, and we'll do another GameQuest episode before the bowl game, whenever that is, wherever that is. But can't thank our friends, our presenting sponsor over at Spivey, Cain, and Spivey LLP enough for believing in the show, helping us out at Volquest.com, being a part of all the action this year here at Volquest.com. So big thanks to Spivey, Cain, and Spivey LLP. And you can check them out online at Spivey, Cain, and SpiveyLLP.com. You can give them a call today for a free consultation at 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185. That is Spivey, Cain, and Spivey LLP. Thanks, Jarrett Guarantano, Grant Ramey. I'm Mary Cain. Hope you guys had a great feast week, and time to feast on some rivalry games this weekend. Tennessee and Vanderbilt coming up, and we have it all right here at Volquest.com.